There was one moment, one small moment. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no fighting, just a quiet feeling in his chest, a pause, a strange look, a sentence that didn't sit right. His mind noticed it, his heart felt it, and for a few seconds he knew something was off. But then he smiled, he laughed it away, he told himself, it's nothing, because walking away felt harder than staying, because starting over felt scary, because he had already given so much time, so much energy, so much hope, so he ignored it. Weeks passed, then months, then years. That one red flag didn't disappear. It multiplied. It showed up in new ways, sharper ways, more painful ways. And one day, everything fell apart. That's when he finally understood. That moment at the beginning, that quiet feeling, that was the warning. But here's the real question. Why did he ignore it when he saw it so clearly? Why do so many men do the same thing? Why do men stay hope and push forward even when the signs are right in front of them? And why does it almost always hit them only when it's already too late? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what that first red flag meant and why men don't listen to it until life forces them to. Men don't ignore red flags because they are blind. They ignore them because they see them differently. When a man notices something wrong, his first thought is not fear, it's responsibility. He thinks, maybe I can fix this. Maybe I just need to try harder. Men are taught early to solve problems. If something breaks, you fix it. If something hurts, you push through it. So when a red flag shows up, it doesn't feel like danger. It feels like a challenge. And challenges make men lean in, not pull away. A man doesn't ask, is this bad for me? He asks, can I handle this? That question changes everything, because once a man believes he can handle something, he stops asking if he should. He tells himself the issue is small. He tells himself everyone has flaws. He tells himself no relationship is perfect. And that sounds reasonable. But here's the problem. Red flags don't ask for permission to grow. They don't stay small. They wait. They wait until a man is more attached, more invested, more emotionally tied. And by then, walking away feels like failure. So men don't ignore red flags because they don't care. They ignore them because they care too much. They believe strength means staying. They believe patience will be rewarded. They believe effort will change outcomes. And sometimes that belief becomes the very thing that traps them. This is where the story really begins, because this way of thinking didn't start in relationships. It started long before. Most men grow up learning a rule that is never said out loud. Don't complain, just deal with it. When a boy falls and gets hurt, he's told to shake it off. When he feels sad, he's told to be strong. When something feels unfair, he's told that life isn't fair. Over time, this becomes normal. Pain becomes something to carry quietly. Problems become something to handle alone. So when a red flag shows up in a relationship, it doesn't feel like a warning. It feels like just another thing to endure. Men are praised for staying calm, for staying loyal, for not walking away when things get hard. Leaving is seen as weakness. Staying is seen as strength. That belief runs deep. Instead of asking, is this healthy? A man asks, am I strong enough? And when he feels tired, confused, uneasy, he doesn't talk about it. He pushes it down. He tells himself other men have it worse. He tells himself this is normal. He tells himself he's being dramatic. This is how red flags turn invisible. Not because they aren't there, but because men are trained to ignore their own discomfort. They don't trust their feelings. They trust endurance. And endurance can look noble, but it can also be dangerous, because some things are not meant to be pushed through. Some things are meant to be walked away from, but men are rarely taught the difference. And that's how the trap slowly forms. Quiet, familiar, hard to notice, until one day it's too heavy to carry anymore. And by then, the damage is already done. Before we go on, let me say this. If this feels familiar, you're not strange, you're not weak. This is something many men grow up with and never talk about. So if this video already feels like it's speaking to you, take 1 second and tap the like button. Not to support me, but to mark this moment for yourself. And if you want more calm, honest talks like this, you can subscribe. No hype, no yelling, just real things men carry quietly. Alright, let's continue. Hope is a powerful thing. For men, hope often feels like loyalty, like commitment, like doing the right thing. When a man sees a red flag, logic may speak first, but hope speaks louder. Hope says, it's just a phase. Hope says, she'll change with time. Hope says, once things settle down, it'll be better. And hope feels good, it gives meaning to struggle. It turns pain into purpose. So instead of seeing the red flag for what it is, a man sees potential. He doesn't focus on who she is right now. He focuses on who she could become. That future version feels real to him. So real that he starts living for it. He puts more effort in. He becomes more patient. He makes more excuses. And each excuse feels small on its own. It was a bad day. She didn't mean it. I probably overreacted. But over time, those small excuses stack up. Hope keeps him looking forward, not around. And while he's looking ahead, the present keeps getting heavier. Logic would say, patterns matter. Logic would say, pay attention. But hope says, don't give up yet. Men are taught that quitting is failure, that giving up means weakness. So hope becomes armor, but armor is heavy, and carrying it too long slowly wears a man down. The hardest part, hope doesn't feel dangerous. It feels noble. It feels patient. It feels loving. That's why so many men stay longer than they should, not because they don't see the problem, but because they believe their hope can fix it. And by the time hope finally breaks, the cost is already high, sometimes too high to undo. Starting over sounds simple, but for many men, it feels terrifying. By the time red flags become clear, a man has already invested a lot. Time, energy, dreams, and remembers the early days, the laughs, the plans. Walking away feels like throwing all of that away, and men hate waste. They don't just think about what's wrong now, they think about everything they already put in. Years start to feel like chains. He tells himself, I've come this far, I can't just quit now. This is how the past controls the present. The idea of starting again feels like going backwards, meeting someone new, explaining everything again. It feels exhausting, so staying feels easier than leaving. Even if staying hurts, there's also fear of being alone. Men don't always talk about it, but loneliness hits hard when it hits. He wonders, is this the best I can do? Would anyone else even understand me? So he chooses familiar pain over unknown risk, because at least familiar pain is predictable. Another quiet fear lives underneath, failure. Leaving can feel like admitting defeat, like saying, I couldn't make it work. That hits a man's pride. So he stays, he tolerates more, he lowers his own needs, not because he's weak, but because he's scared of starting from zero. And that fear keeps him locked in place. Until one day, starting over is no longer a choice. Life makes the choice for him, and by then, the price is much higher than it ever needed to be. Love can be honest, but it can also be blinding. When a man loves deeply, he doesn't want to see the bad, not because he's stupid, but because seeing it hurts. So his mind starts protecting his heart. He changes the story. He says, that's just how she is. He says, no one is perfect. He says, I'm sure she didn't mean it like that. These lies feel gentle, they feel kind, but they are still lies. Each time he explains away a red flag, he moves a little further from the truth. He remembers the good moments more than the bad ones. He replays the laughs. He ignores the warning signs. Love makes him focus on intention, not behavior. She didn't want to hurt me. She's just stressed. She loves me in her own way. But love is not shown by words alone. It's shown by patterns, and patterns don't lie. Still, a man in love will argue with reality. He will defend someone who keeps hurting him. He will blame himself instead. If I was better, this wouldn't happen. If I was more patient, things would change. This is where love becomes dangerous. Not because it's wrong to care, but because caring too much can erase self-respect. He stops listening to his gut. He stops trusting his own feelings. And the red flags don't need to hide anymore, because love has already taught him how to ignore them. Until one day, the truth hits so hard that no excuse can soften it. And by then he realizes something painful. He didn't lose control. He gave it away. Pride can keep a man standing, but it can also keep him stuck. Many men believe they should be able to handle anything, no matter how heavy it gets. So when problems show up, he doesn't see them as warning signs. He sees them as tests. I'm strong enough for this. I can deal with it. I don't need help. That voice sounds confident, but it can be dangerous because pride tells a man to carry pain alone. He doesn't talk about what's bothering him. He doesn't ask for advice. He doesn't admit something feels wrong. Instead, he doubles down. He becomes quieter, more distant, more tired, But on the outside, he looks fine. Pride also hates the idea of being wrong. Admitting the red flags were real means admitting he missed them, that he chose wrong, that he trusted the wrong person. And that hurts, so he keeps going. He keeps believing. He keeps hoping. Not because things are good, but because stopping would hurt his image of himself. Many men confuse strength with silence. They think real men don't back out. Real men don't quit. But real strength is knowing when something is breaking you. Pride doesn't see that. Pride says, endure. Wisdom says, pay attention. And when pride is louder than wisdom, red flags turn into long-term damage. By the time pride finally cracks, the man is already worn down. And the lesson comes with pain, deep pain, the kind that changes how he trusts forever. Most men think disaster comes all at once. A big fight, a clear betrayal, a sudden ending. But that's not how it usually happens. It happens slowly. So slowly that it feels normal. One small comment here, one cold moment there, one time he feels unheard, one time he feels small. None of it seems big enough to leave, so he stays. Days turn into months, months turn into years, and without noticing he starts changing. He speaks less, he shares less, he laughs less, he walks on eggshells, he thinks before every word. Peace becomes rare, tension becomes normal. The red flags don't scream, they whisper. They show up as tired mornings, heavy silence, a tight feeling in the chest. He tells himself this is just how relationships are, that every couple struggles, that this is part of being a man. So he adjusts, he lowers his needs, he raises his tolerance, he accepts less respect, and the line keeps moving. What used to bother him badly now barely gets a reaction. This is the most dangerous part, because when pain becomes normal, the breaking point moves closer, and he doesn't see it coming. Until one day, something small happens, something tiny, and everything inside him collapses. Not because of that moment alone, but because of everything he carried quietly before it. That's when he realizes the truth. He wasn't strong for staying, he was slowly breaking, and now the damage feels impossible to ignore. This is where the story turns. This is where men finally wake up. But waking up this late always comes with a cost. The moment doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, a sentence that crosses a line, a look that shows no care, a moment where he feels completely alone. Something inside him clicks. Not anger, not rage, clarity. For the first time he stops explaining things away. He stops making excuses, he stops blaming himself. He sees the pattern clearly. And that's when it hurts the most, because he realizes this wasn't a phase. It wasn't stress. It wasn't bad timing. It was always there. He remembers the first red flag, that early feeling in his chest, that moment he ignored. Now, it makes sense. Every excuse he made comes back. Every time he stayed silent, every time he chose peace over truth, the weight hits all at once. Regret doesn't scream, it sinks. He feels foolish, he feels tired, he feels late. But along with the pain, there is relief, because the confusion is gone. The inner fight stops. He no longer wonders if he's crazy. He no longer doubts his own feelings. The truth is clear, and once a man sees the truth, he can't unsee it. That's why this moment changes him forever. Even if he stays longer, something inside him has already left. Trust breaks, hope fades, and he understands something painful. The red flags weren't hidden. He saw them. He just wasn't ready to accept what they meant. Now he is, and that understanding sets the stage for the hardest part, because seeing the truth doesn't mean the damage isn't already done. When men finally wake up, they often ask one question: why didn't I leave sooner? The answer hurts, because by the time the truth is clear, so much has already been lost. Time is gone, energy is drained, emotional strength is low. He's no longer the man he was at the start. He's tired, he's guarded, he's slower to trust. Leaving now feels heavier than it ever would have felt earlier. There are shared lives, shared plans, shared history. Walking away means pain no matter what. So even when he sees the truth, he may still stay a little longer, not because he believes anymore, but because untangling everything feels overwhelming. This is why red flags are dangerous, not because they exist, but because they delay action. Each ignored sign adds weight, each excuse adds time, and time makes leaving harder. Men often think they can wait for the right moment, but the right moment rarely comes. There is no clean exit, no perfect timing, just loss. That's why regret shows up late at night, In quiet moments, when he thinks about who he used to be, he doesn't regret loving. He regrets ignoring himself, and that lesson stays with him forever. Because once a man pays this price once, he never wants to pay it again. That's how men change, not through advice, not through warnings, but through pain. And that pain could have been avoided if the first red flag had been taken seriously. This brings us to something men rarely say out loud, something deeper than regret, something honest. Here is the truth many men keep buried. Ignoring red flags wasn't about love alone, it was about self-worth. Deep down, many men don't believe their discomfort matters. They believe their role is to endure, not to be protected. So when something feels wrong, they don't ask, "Do I deserve better?" They ask, "Can I survive this?" That question changes everything. Men are rarely taught to leave situations that hurt them emotionally. They're taught to stay strong inside them. So they stay longer than they should, they give more than they should, they accept less than they deserve. And when it finally breaks them, they feel ashamed for breaking, not angry at what caused the pain, angry at themselves for feeling it. This is why men don't talk, because admitting emotional damage feels like failure, like weakness, like losing control. So they stay quiet, they joke about it, they distract themselves, they move on without healing. But the lesson stays. It shows up as guarded behavior, as walls, as distance in future relationships. People say men change. What they don't see is why. Men don't become cold, they become careful. They don't stop loving, they stop ignoring signs. And that's the cost of learning too late. This truth isn't comfortable, but it's real, and understanding it is the only way to stop repeating the cycle. Because the goal isn't to fear love, it's to respect yourself inside it. Every ignored red flag carries the same lesson. Listen to yourself sooner, not louder, not angrier, sooner. That quiet feeling at the start was never confusion, it was awareness. Men often think intuition is weak, emotional, unreliable, but that first feeling was clear. The problem wasn't that men didn't feel it, the problem was they didn't trust it. They trusted effort more than instinct. They trusted patience more than truth. They trusted hope more than reality. Red flags don't ask you to panic, they ask you to pause. They ask one simple question: is this who you want to build with? Ignoring that question doesn't make it go away, it only delays the answer, and the longer the delay, the more painful the answer becomes. This lesson isn't about blaming yourself, it's about learning. The past can't be changed, but awareness can. A man who understands this lesson doesn't rush next time. He watches patterns, he listens to how he feels, he knows that love should not require self-injure. And when something feels wrong early on, he doesn't argue with it, he respects it. Because self-respect is not about being cold, it's about being honest, and honesty early saves years of pain later. This brings us back to the beginning, back to that first moment, the one we started with. Now, it finally makes sense. Remember that first moment? That quiet pause, that strange feeling in the chest. That wasn't fear, that was clarity knocking softly. Men don't ignore red flags because they don't see them. They ignore them because they believe pushing through is strength. They believe staying proves loyalty. They believe enduring proves love. But strength is not staying when something is breaking you. Strength is listening before damage becomes permanent. That man at the start of this video didn't fail because he loved too much. He failed because he loved others more than himself. And that's the truth many men learn too late. Red flags are not signs to run. They are signs to slow down and look closely, to ask real questions, to protect your future self. If you're watching this and something feels familiar, pay attention. That quiet voice inside you is not weakness, it's wisdom. And listening to it now can save you years of regret later. Men don't need to love less, they need to respect themselves more.